Dennis Bergkamp, the non-flying Dutchman. You've heard of midfield maestros, goal machine strikers, and elegant number 10s. But how many football legends had a travel clause written into their contract? This is the story of a footballer so graceful, he made the ball float, but couldn't bear the thought of doing the same himself. Born to play, grounded by fear. Dennis Bergkamp wasn't just good. He was art. Raised in the Ajax Academy, schooled in total football, and trained under Johan Cruyff himself. He had that rare blend, a mind 2 moves ahead, and a first touch that felt like the ball owed him money. But even in his early days, there was something different. Off the pitch, Dennis wasn't your average footballer. He was quiet, thoughtful, a lover of engineering and precision. He also had one deep-seated fear, and it started long before the Premier League ever knew his name. Turbulence and trauma. In the late 1980s, tragedy struck the heart of the Dutch football community. A chartered flight, Surinam Airways Flight PY764, was carrying a group of talented footballers to Paramaribo, Suriname. They were part of the Colourful 11, a team made up of Dutch players of Surinamese descent, brought together to play in a charity tournament. Many of them were rising stars. Some were already professionals, others still dreaming. Among them were players who had come up through the Ajax Youth Academy, the very same system that shaped Dennis Bergkamp. On June 7, 1989, just before landing, the plane crashed near the runway. Of the 187 people on board, 176 lost their lives. It remains the deadliest aviation disaster in Surinamese history. Bergkamp wasn't on the flight, but the loss was personal. These were his peers, his friends, his teammates, young men with the same dreams, the same journey, gone in an instant. For Dennis, who already had a cautious temperament, the crash wasn't just a distant headline. It was a turning point, a private scar, a moment when flying stopped feeling like routine and started to feel like Russian roulette. Fast forward to the summer of 1994. The World Cup was being held in the United States, a country where every city was hours apart by plane. The Dutch national team, including Bergkamp, was flying between matches, like all the other teams. But during one of those routine flights, things went wrong. Mid-air, the plane hit severe turbulence. Reports later described it as engine trouble. The cabin shook, passengers gripped their seats. They landed safely. No one was hurt. But for Dennis Bergkamp, something inside him snapped. He wasn't dramatic about it. He simply said, "That's it. I'm not flying again. Not maybe. Not sometimes. Not if it's important. Just never." Arsene's Plan B. By the summer of 1995, Arsenal had a problem. A very elegant, technically gifted, ice-cold finisher of a problem. They'd just signed Dennis Bergkamp from Inter Milan. A genius with the ball. A dream for any manager. But there was one small clause in his contract that made boardrooms nervous. He doesn't fly. To most clubs, that's a deal breaker. You play in Europe. You travel. It's not optional. But Arsenal's new manager, Arsène Wenger, saw it differently. He didn't just see a player, he saw a puzzle worth solving. So what did he do? He got creative. For Champions League away matches, while the rest of the team was soaring at 30,000 feet, Bergkamp was on the Eurostar, or in a chauffeur-driven car, or, on rare occasions, just staying home. He'd leave days earlier than the squad. Sometimes arrive after them. Occasionally, not arrive at all. Wenger accepted the trade-off. He once said, "When he plays, he's worth it. When he doesn't, we adapt." in a team full of flying wingers and rapid counterattacks. Dennis was the still point, the calm in the storm. He didn't need to play every away game in Ukraine to prove his worth. When the big games came at Highbury, he delivered magic. In a world obsessed with speed, Dennis showed the value of patience. While others rushed to airports and checked in bags, he was sipping tea somewhere near Calais, thinking about his first touch. And honestly, that touch alone was worth the travel accommodations. When the game took flight, there's a reason they called him the Iceman. He never rushed, never panicked. He saw football as geometry in motion. Take his goal against Newcastle. You know the one. Ball from Robert Pires, Dennis lets it run across him, spins around the defender like a ballerina with X-ray vision, and tucks it home like he does it every Tuesday. And he never looked surprised. Never celebrated wildly. Because in his mind, he'd already seen it play out. Dennis didn't score the most goals. He just scored the ones people remembered. The legacy. Yes, it's true, Dennis Bergkamp's contract included a non-flying clause. One of the most unique in football history. Did he miss out on some matches? Absolutely. Did fans complain? Not really. Because every time he stepped on the pitch, he gave you something unforgettable. He retired in 2006 with 120 goals for Arsenal, 3 Premier League titles, and a statue outside the Emirates. And to this day, he remains the only footballer who made millions of fans fly, without ever leaving the ground himself. If you'd ride a 10-hour train just to watch Bergkamp play, give this video a like. Subscribe for more legends, more memories, and more players who did things their way.